Welcome to Bird Fans Forever, episode 89. Today we're excited to welcome Illinois State Director of Athletics, Dr. Jeri Beggs. Since taking the helm of Redbird Athletics, Jeri has been leading the department during one of the most transformative times in college sports, from the evolving world of NIL and revenue sharing to supporting student athletes and building championship programs. She's helping shape the future of Illinois State athletics. We'll talk about her journey to normal, the vision for Redbird Athletics, the opportunities and challenges facing college athletics today, and what's ahead for Illinois State. Please join us in welcoming Illinois State Athletic Director, Dr. Jeri Beggs.
Hello and welcome to Bird Fans Forever, episode 89 with Dr. Jeri Beggs. Hi, Jeri. How you doing?
I'm great. I'm glad you finally had me on. I was getting my feelings hurt a little bit that you've been doing this for so long and you'd never asked me.
That is not entirely true. We have asked quite a few times, but yeah, timing hasn't always worked or, right, there was other things coming up. So yeah, no, we appreciate it. Thank you for being on. No. So we ask everybody how they got to ISU is the first question. You get to be no different.
Okay, I'll tell you, I've got an interesting story. So actually, my husband and I came to ISU in 2002 as faculty members. And what some of your listeners may not know is that we are actually Salukis under all this Redbird gear. I know.
Well, that's been a great episode. And we're
And you know what, John? We hated Illinois State. They were really good at sports, and they beat us quite frequently in the 80s and 90s. And so to find ourselves Redbirds was quite a shock. But we're both faculty members, and it's very hard to both get jobs at the same university. And so when ISU offered us positions within 24 hours of each other, we decided that we could live with that. We became Redbirds. And it was such a great decision. It was a wonderful place to build careers and to raise children. We've had a great time here. The other options, looking back on it, we really dodged bullets. We belonged at ISU.
That is awesome.
The second part of the story is how I got to be the athletic director. So this is a really unusual one because honestly, not completely unprecedented, but you don't hear very often about marketing professors who all of a sudden get to be athletic directors. That doesn't happen very often. So I was the faculty athletic rep here at Illinois State University for 14 years. Some of your, again, listeners may not know that every NCAA institution has to have a faculty member assigned as the faculty athletic rep. And so in that role, I got to do a lot of really fun things. I got to be on the NCAA board of directors. I was on the committee on academics for over 10 years. I was on the transformation committee. And so lots of really cool national work that I got to do and met a lot of people and really enjoyed that. I had actually put in for retirement. I was 3 weeks away from being retired when the president called me. I was pulling into my garage at 8:30 on a Thursday night. And the president didn't call me very often anyway, but he definitely didn't call me at 8:30 at night. The previous AD had resigned the day before. So I thought maybe he's calling to talk to me about, who do you think would be good for this job? Which he did ask me in the beginning, but by the end of it, he said, I've had some people say they think you should be the athletic director. Well, in a million years, I never imagined being the athletic director. Again, 3 weeks from retirement. I was headed to Panama on Sunday to teach a class down there. I had taken a job with the Missouri Valley Conference in a consulting role. I've been looking at a little apartment to rent in London in the fall. I had plans, bottom line.
Right.
But I loved the Redbirds. It seemed like a really cool thing to get to do at the end of your career. Of course, he tricked me a little bit by saying 2 to 3 months and then maybe 6 months. And of course, I ended up doing the interim gig for almost 2 years before I was given the permanent role. But they sucked me in. I mean, they truly, the people, the projects, the success we were having, I just got so caught up in it that I couldn't imagine leaving without at least trying for the full
Right,
for the
right.
full-time gig. So now I've been doing this for a little over 3 years.
3 years.
And
2 years is interim, and 1 year
Yeah.
so far is full. Yeah.
Yeah, almost a year and a half full because I got the
Full
job
enough. Okay.
in early March.
Okay. And back to your Saluki things. My mom and dad are Salukis. My brother's a Saluki. My sister-in-law's a Saluki. My nieces are Salukis. There's just a ton. My parents took me down. Van Winkelstein, or whatever his name was the head coach in the early 80s.
Van Winkle.
Van Winkle, thank you. He wasn't there when I got there, but my parents took me down every summer, and we took a tour. My dad swam and played football for the Salukis.
There you go.
And so
I met my husband there. He grew up there. His father at the end was the chancellor at SIU Carbondale. So the Beggs name is very well known.
Oh, wow.
In Carbondale. And so I can't regret my years there. It got me a husband, some great in-laws, and it was a great place to go to school.
Yeah. Yeah. So even though I boo SIU, it wasn't. Yeah. And then my brother, basically hoodwinked the Illinois State University because my junior and senior year, he'd drive up for every one of our home games, walk in with SIU gear, and the basketball department would give him a new shirt. So he basically funded himself.
Perfect.
And your sports too, because last we're sitting in at Northwestern, she goes, "Is that Lowry?" And you were right. He was the assistant coach. You recognized him.
Yeah, no, he was a player. And then an assistant coach at SIU. Right. Yeah, I did. I was a big fan. I'm from Lawrenceville, Illinois, which is a basketball mecca. For small town basketball. And so, I grew up a fan and was a fan at SIU. Good friends with Thad Mata, who played at SIU.
I know Thad.
Yeah, I was the maid of honor in Thad's first wedding. His first wife was my best friend. So I've always just been around basketball as a fan. Never played it myself, but good times.
My dad was from West Frankfort, so
okay. Good, very good. Yeah.
So you jumping in here, Steve?
Yeah, I don't know where.
Okay,
so you took a different path, right?
Right.
Than most to become the AD. So, and being a marketing professor for all those years and being part of the academic world, what perspectives do you think that you brought to this role that maybe other ADs haven't in the past?
Well, as I mentioned, it's not completely unprecedented to have a faculty athletic rep become the interim. Actually, at Southern Illinois University, Dr. Bardot had played there. He was the faculty athletic rep. He served a couple of times as the interim, but certainly had more intricate insider knowledge than I did. I remember when the president first asked me if I was, would be willing to take the job. My first question is, can I do it? I mean, I didn't want to do any damage to Redbird athletics because of my lack of knowledge. And the second part was, would I like it? But I really did have a lot of concerns around, I don't know anything about soccer. Southern Illinois was not a hotbed for soccer when I was growing up. And I still tell the young ladies who play soccer, like everything I know about soccer, I learned on Ted Lasso. The fact that there are rules to keep them from scoring too much doesn't make any sense at all to me, right? I think they should be scoring more. And I did worry, like, man, there's so much I don't know about. And you know what? That turned out to be really not an issue. We had 19 sports at the time. And honestly, I don't think there's anybody in our department that knows everything there is to know about all 19 sports. That's what head coaches and coaching staffs are for. What I have brought to the table that I think actually has been a good and positive thing from the academic side is some credibility. When you are an academic, the academic side of the house looks at you and says, we probably can trust her on admission decisions. We can probably trust her to have good academic control in athletics. So it was already a good academic situation in Redbird athletics, but I'll tell you in a little while, we set 4 academic records this year. So definitely a positive relationship. Being a marketing professor, and understanding brand and communication and all of that has definitely been a plus. Being a fundraiser in my 20s. I was actually a fundraiser for SIU Carbondale, so that background helped. The fact that I spoke for a living for 30 years, I get
Right.
asked to do these kinds of things. Plus, I've been to every nursing home and senior care facility in the area. I go visit them and speak. I've been to all the Kiwanis and the Rotaries and everything. So standing in front of a group and giving a speech is easy for me. And honestly, I think another thing I brought to the table is I didn't walk in the door with a template or a platform or I want to do it my way. I didn't know anything. And so I just learned, and I allowed really good people on my staff like Leanna Bordner and Cindy Harris, who were already there, and then Paul Cabas and Allison Thornley that I hired to complete my cabinet. They're fantastic. And they have spent their entire lives in athletic administration. And so I had really good support system. I also would add, this is a completely different time in college athletics. So a lot of what everybody knew 10 years ago, 20 years ago isn't even relevant anymore anyway. And so we're learning on the fly every day.
Yeah, especially since the California decision to turn NIL loose on the NCAA, right? It has been learned by the seat of your pants as fast as humanly possible, right?
Absolutely. And, a lot of people ask me, like, you were that close to retirement. Why did you decide you wanted the permanent job? And part of it is I wanted to stay for the people. My staff wanted me to stay. And we really were on a good trajectory. Things were really rolling. And so naively, I thought that maybe if I stuck around for a few years, I could help them get through some of this chaos that's being created by the NCAA and the legal system. I was very naive to think that was going to be over in any short amount of time, because it's just something new every day. Today it was all about the new age-based eligibility model and all the lawsuits that have popped up this summer around the class of 2022 not getting an extra year. So it's just always something. There's always some new issue happening.
Just had Texas and that quarterback seemed like in the beginning of the summer, and him being able to get a year back, even though he gambled on the sport, right? That's a nightmare, right? And so
no, it's something all the time. There's something being thrown at us all the time right now.
So Dr. Beggs, you mentioned that ISU is on a great trajectory, and in 25-26 was a banner year. So why don't you talk about some of those successes on and off the field, okay? And then how you use that marketing to take and parlay that into something even bigger and greater.
Yeah, so it has been an incredible year. And honestly, before I go any further bragging about the year, I want to make sure everybody's very clear that these are not my successes, right? It takes a village. We have incredible student athletes, incredible coaches, and I have an incredible staff that all work really hard to make this all happen. So let me start by telling you I have 3 pillars, 3 goals that I set for the entire department, and they have not changed since the day I walked in the door. We want to graduate student athletes, win championships, and be the best campus and community partners we can be. And so I'll tell you about our successes in those 3 areas. Wouldn't be a professor if I didn't start with academics. So Redbird Athletics has been really good on the academic side for many, many years. So it's not a new thing, but this year we actually set 4 different records, high watermark numbers, and starting with a departmental GPA of 3.48.
Wow.
Now I want to remind you all, we have a football team, and these kind of numbers are not easy to achieve if you have a football team and over 400 student athletes. So thrilled with that number. Every time we hit one of those numbers, I think we'll never get any higher. And then lo and behold, they come up with a higher number. It's unbelievable.
You would have kicked me to a curb since I graduated at 2.09.
You would have been dragging them down, John. And honestly, the men's basketball team is probably even more impressive. They, of the 8 semesters under Ryan Peden, they have set records 7 of those
awesome.
8 semesters. Their GPA this last semester, 3.71.
Wow.
The first time I saw it, I thought it had to be the girls' Had to be the women. There's no way that's the men's basketball. It was the men. How about that? What a culture they've created there.
Yeah, he has done an amazing job.
Yeah,
all the coaches have really done an amazing job in
they
culture.
have. They have.
Right.
We've always had really good scores on the women's side. I'm going to, brag a little bit about our women. They've always killed it. But the men have really stepped up their game. So unbelievable. 2 NCAA numbers, graduation success rate, we had a high water mark, and APR, academic progress rate, we had a high water mark. And then this one I'm really proud of. This year, we won the Missouri Valley Conference All Academic Award, along with the Missouri Valley Conference All Sport Award. We had never won that. The privates have a tendency to kind of walk away with that one. And so, 4 academic awards. It doesn't get any better than that. 111 student athletes earned 4.0s in the spring semester. That's over 25% of our students earning a perfect. And you all know, because you're such good fans, you all know what these kids are doing, what their schedules look like.
Oh my God, I lived it.
They practically have full-time jobs as athletes, full-time jobs as students. And then by the way, they also did 3,000 community service hours this year. So super proud of their progress there. And while they're doing that, they also were very successful. When you're playing football in January and men's and women's basketball in April, you've had a pretty good year, right? So I know you all are fans across the spectrum. We started out the season in football looking pretty good, but there were some bumps along the way. And when we ended the season here at home against Southern Illinois and kind of just took a beating, I think we were all like, "Oh my gosh, what happened to this season?" Weren't sure what we were going to, where we were going to get into the tournament. FCS championship, and then to win 4 on the road all across the United States, over 8,000 miles we traveled. First time any school had ever won 4 to get to the championship. It was an incredible year for football. And that national championship, I can talk some more about that. What that has done for the school and the program is unbelievable in terms of marketing. It's unreal. We also then went on, of course, in men's and women's basketball to be playing in April. At one point, we were the only other school besides Connecticut to have both of our teams still playing. So to see the men go from a CBI win to an NIT semifinal, and you know what the next step has to be, right? I mean, it absolutely has to be.
That's what we want.
Yeah.
Gotta go to the tournament.
The big dance or die, right? Or bust. That was incredible to see the women make it all the way to the championship game, and to know what we have still in the pipeline for next year. It couldn't be more exciting. We did win the Missouri Valley Conference All-Sport Trophy again 7 times in 8 years, 18 times total. So we kind of dominate that. We're good across the board. 3 other championships, women's tennis, men's golf, and men's track and field all did well. It was a banner year for competitiveness too. And as I said, 3,000 community hours. We continued partnerships with, OSF, State Farm, CEFQ, lots of great partnerships. And then to top it all off, at June 30th, we had raised $10.9 million. Shout out to Paul Cabas, Nathaniel Smith, and Dax Schnazy. And then all of our student athletes and coaches and staff who go out there and represent Redbird Athletics well. Our goal was 4.65. So to get to 10.9 was an incredible year. We were the highest percentage over our goal of any of the units at ISU. So super proud. I honestly probably should have retired now, gentlemen. I'm not sure. I might drop and walk away. I'm not sure it's going to get a lot better than this year because it was such an.
Don't say that. We got room to improve, right? And
and you asked how are we gonna parlay this right into something else. On the football side, everything we've done since January 5th has been how do we get back to Nashville, and that means NIL dollars for our coaches. Some increased salary to retain coaches. I mean, NIL dollars for our student athletes, salary increases for our coaches.
Yeah, we know what you meant. Yeah.
Just what can we do in order to keep that momentum? You all know we've been in the championship game before and weren't able through a series of some tragic events and then eventually a pandemic. Didn't really didn't get the ball rolling. We want to be like a Montana State or a North Dakota State, where our fans plan on being at the national championship game. They don't schedule cruises. They don't schedule family vacations. They plan on being in Nashville that weekend in January. So the preseason rankings will come out soon. We will be in the top 5, we believe. But we've got an exciting year of football ahead of us, and that's where we like to be.
So when the fans come back on campus, you mentioned you raised a lot of money. What's some of the things they can see in the facilities? There's like a new scoreboard. Walk us through some of that stuff.
Yeah. So the first thing you'll notice at football is we do have a new video board, $1.5 million, almost $1.5 million video board. And it is significantly larger than the last one. You'll notice an improved picture, larger picture, better sound. We would have liked to have pushed that purchase off for a year if possible, but literally every Saturday when we went to turn it on, it wasn't just that some of the pixels were out and it wasn't a very good picture sometimes. We weren't sure it was going to turn on every Saturday when it came time to flip the switch. So we had to move a little faster than we had planned, but I think our fans will be wowed by it in August at our first game. It's funny because we are actually having a high school game before that, but we told them they can't use it. We get to use it the first game. The first game is ours. And so they've been playing around with the sound and everything. There's going to be a lot of landscaping done underneath. You'll see at that first game, though, it's not going to be ready for that. That's a work in progress. But no, we're really excited about that. We've done a new outfield fence and padding for softball. We're working on baseball. I'm trying to think if there's any other big projects that our fans would notice right away. Sadly, our next big project is not going to be a fun one. It's just like at your home. If you put a new roof on your house, it's not very exciting, but it is time. CEFCU Arena needs a new roof. And so our next big, huge project will be a new roof on CEFCU Arena. Probably not next summer, but the following summer. When it was built and opened in 1989, it was supposed to be, yeah, look at him.
I was there.
It's supposed to be like a 20 to 25 year roof.
Really?
Do the math.
Yeah.
We've definitely got our money's worth out of that roof. Yeah. But it is worrisome, and it's pretty dirty, and it's got some cracks, and we have a maintenance program that comes out and checks it all the time, but we need a new roof on CEFCU Arena.
So there's a project that's been floating around on the football. Can you talk about that and what that's going to bring? I can't get too far. I can't tell you tons about that because we haven't taken it to the board of trustees. We haven't really vetted it that way. But we do have some plans for football, some very exciting plans for our south end zone. Where we are currently raising money for it, but we do have a lot of boxes to check before we can get to the big reveal side of that. If you look around at the FCS programs that have been really successful, they not only have like that east side of Hancock, they have other facilities that go with it. So Hancock, I think, completed in 14 or 15, something like that, the east side. And then obviously the OSF Healthcare Athletics Training Center, that was a big deal. Brock will tell you that he kind of forgot how much impact an indoor practice facility could have. Think about what that did for us during that run, because we were having some really nasty weather.
Cold, yes.
In December. And yet our student athletes, our football players were able to practice indoors. So I think the next piece is an end zone project. Kaufman, the football building, Kaufman, is 25, 26, 27 years old, something like that. It needs some work. So, right now the thought process is we'll raise some money. Hopefully we'll be able to do some kind of building, but we're still in very much the planning phases of that right now.
Awesome. So the, let's talk about like NIL. And last year there was a new fund that was created to help support that. You want to talk a little about that fund and and how that money gets deployed then to the various teams?
Yeah, so just a little background for your listeners in case they don't know. So NIL was created 4 years ago in the summer, and that allowed student athletes to make money off of their name, image, and likeness. So they could sell autographs, they could go do a commercial for a local smoothie shop or a car dealer. And we had been too strict. The NCAA had made it so difficult that they couldn't really do anything. They couldn't. A golfer couldn't give golf lessons. If they wrote music or perform, they just were so restricted. So we really did need to loosen up on that. I don't think any of us imagined where we would find ourselves today, where there are hundreds of $1 million players at the NCAA. I don't think any of us ever imagined that. But the House settlement was finally settled at the last summer, and that provided for revenue sharing by the institution. Before that, only individual businesses could make deals with student athletes. The institution could not participate in that. And that's why we had Empower the Nest, the collective. Every university had one. We still do have Empower the Nest, by the way. They continue to do deals with local businesses for our student athletes. But the rev share and the institutional dollars that we are allowed us to create a fund within the foundation. Now our donors who are interested in NIL, and by the way, those are growing rapidly. If you would have asked our donors day one how many of them believed in NIL, most of them would have told you they thought it was the ruination of college athletics.
Amen. Yep.
And yet it's funny how when those NIL dollars start to have faces like we want to keep Chase and Johnny,
right,
people started to warm up to the idea. We want to hang on to our women's basketball players. We want to hang on to our football players. We have way more donors interested now in helping us. And I think it may be they still think it's evil, but they recognized the need for it. So Redbird Excellence Fund is a fund within the foundation that you can donate to. You can pick the sport that you would like to give to. You can't pick the student athlete that you would like to give to. But tax deductible now, and we are controlling all of that. So what you would like to be able to do in the spring, and for our men's and women's basketball, I'll give you an example. In the spring, you want to be able to say to them, here is your dollar amount that you have to spend. And then they start figuring out what are they going to spend on their current players to try to hang on to them? What are they going to go out and give to freshmen? It is evolving every single year. The contracts have looked different the first year than the second year. I'm sure they're going to look different the third year because we're starting to see incentives. We're starting to see buyouts. They're getting more sophisticated over time. So I wonder where we're headed because we have at least doubled ours from the first year to the second year to the third year. You all know how that works. At some point, that's a really hard thing to do, is to continue to double those amount. The Power Four, they are the ones who created this mess in the beginning. They were the ones named in the lawsuit. We were not even named, and yet we are paying the bill. And they're the ones who now don't want to follow the rules. So it's a crazy mess out there. But we want to be competitive, and so if we want to win, we can't put our heads in the sand and say we don't like NIL. We have to have NIL. Yeah. So far, we have only used donor dollars, which I'm sure the Illinois State University is happy that we can say that. In the future, I would be open to some things that might make sense, like some sponsorship dollars or some guarantee game money. Of course, we would never use student fees or general revenue that comes from the university. That has to be kept for scholarships and things like that, facilities management. But you can see how you can make a case for sponsorships are driven by the success of a team, by the players who bring you those successes. So sponsorship dollars could potentially one day be used. Right now, though, we live on those dollars. So we would have to figure out a way to get to a budget situation where we don't have to live on them. So right now, our donors are taking care of us, which is a wonderful thing.
This is where everyone gets to be a crash course. Coaches need to have a minor in business. The whole department has to have a minor in business. Like how do you do the budgets? How do you increase revenue? It's very fluid.
It is. And you're hearing a lot of business words creep in to college athletics, general managers, you're the CEO of your program. It's a new relationship that coaches have to have with players. And it's interesting. I don't know how much this is true across the country and how much this is happening just at Illinois State. You all hopefully have had a chance to be around Brock Spack. He is salt of the earth, no nonsense kind of guy, right? He does not get caught up in NIL and making things fair, and he's not worth it. He can go on. Our men's and women's basketball coaches have struggled much more with the concept of you're worth this much and you're worth a different number. But think about how they've always had to do things, right? Men's and women's basketball has been a head count sport. Every student that gets a scholarship gets a full ride scholarship. So you're either one of the 13 full ride scholarships or you're one of the 2 walk-ons on the men's basketball team, right? You never had to determine. Whereas a baseball coach or a softball coach always, or a football coach, always had to say, you're worth 40% of a scholarship and you're worth 25 and you're worth a full ride. So Coach Spack has not struggled with this nearly as much as I think our men's and women's basketball coaches. Plus, they're like their kids. There's 15 of them. They know them really well. They have a really hard time. In the beginning, we would occasionally, well, I don't want to hurt their feelings. Well, this has gotten to a point where this is a business. And some people are worth more to this business, not as humans, right? But as impact players. And so it's been interesting to watch our coaches kind of get to that point. They're getting better all the time. Some of their philosophies have changed over, in the beginning, we're going to give freshmen very little until they can prove themselves. But then both of these coaches have had players that they really wanted, that they had to go bigger as freshmen to get those players to come to campus. So it's evolving. It changes all the time.
All right. Well, I have a Valley tournament question, but I actually wanted to go back to last session when you talked about that Southern game where we just, for football, laid an egg. We had Tommy on and, Daniel on, and we asked them that question, and they were like, we don't know what happened. We just threw the tape in the garbage. We never looked at it, and we just went on, and they tore off, right? Sometimes it happens as a team just has a bad night.
Well, and some people will say it's a wake-up call, right? It was.
I would agree. Yeah,
it was a wake-up call, and they had something to prove after that, and so here we go. Yeah.
So my question for this segment is, having played the Valley tournament myself in Redbird, and then it moving to St. Louis, and the women being up in the Quad Cities, now the Valley is bringing them all together in St. Louis. So we want to hear kind of your thoughts on bringing both the men's and women's to St. Louis.
So let me give you a little background. So Arch Madness has been one of our greatest assets for Missouri Valley Conference. We know that it has a great sponsorship. Back in the day, it was one of the best attended conference tournaments in the nation by a large margin. Back when the Creightons and the Wichita States were there, we would fill that place up. So we knew that was an asset that we didn't want to do any damage to. The women's tournament has struggled. Women's basketball has gained ground, but still the attendance has not been great. We've been bouncing around a little bit. We've been at Moline for quite a few years. We tried Evansville. We tried Coraville last year, which I had high hopes for because it's a great facility, great location, combination of bad weather and some the teams that made it to the final didn't have a lot of fans there that year. Didn't have very good attendance. So we were supposed to have one more year in Moline this coming year, but we started looking for a variety of reasons. One is, could the women take advantage of the Arch Madness brand? There is some cost savings to bringing everybody together in one location. The research that the Valley office did on this was extensive. What other schools did it? Lots of conferences do it this way.
Right.
And so I was a pretty harsh critic, and part of it just playing devil's advocate. I worried that the women were going to end up feeling like they were just being wedged into the men's tournament, that it wasn't really about them. It was just making them fit. So, and it still feels a little bit like that to me. So the women are going to play on Wednesday and then have a day off on Thursday and then play again on Friday. The men are going to play Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just like they always do. Right. On Saturday, we have a TV contract, so the men play afternoon games. The women are going to have to play a morning and a night game. So there's going to be a little bit of that feel. I could tell pretty quickly I wasn't going to win the argument. I was put on a special committee to look at this. And I think they put me there because they knew I was going to be the voice of the other side. But I quickly realized I wasn't going to win. And so I kind of turned my voice to advocating for trying to give the women the very best experience they can possibly get.
Yes.
It's a cool venue, but if you only have 1,000 fans in a large venue, sometimes that is you feel a little lost there. So I'm excited about some of the pros, right? So if any of our fans are choosing between the men's tournament and the women's tournament, problem solved. You don't have to choose anymore. Right now, the plan is that it's one ticket. So you buy an all session pass, you get into all the games. So I'm hoping some of our men's fans who traditionally go to the men's tournament, maybe not the women's, will now come watch the Redbird women play while they're
in on Wednesday. Amen.
Yeah.
Yep.
Come watch the women play. And actually, John, I'm hoping none of us are playing on Wednesday or Thursday. Another part of the change is that they're sending the 1 and 2 seeds straight to Saturday. And there's been some complaints out there about we've ruined the tournament. And the best thing was that anybody could win. Again, we did our research. Every indication we got from Dan Gavitt at the NCAA office, Joe Lenardi came and spoke to us, is that we have a real opportunity with the expanded tournament. Again, for your fans who don't know, 8 new teams have been added to the men's and women's basketball tournament. Yep. So it's going to be 76 instead of 68. That we would have had a chance to get extra teams in the past few years if Belmont would have made it to the weekend instead of getting knocked off on Friday. They might have had a chance. Indiana State a couple of years ago would have definitely been in. So we are trying to be proactive and say, what can we do to make sure that we get 2 teams in? Right. And all it takes is the number 1 team getting knocked out early in the tournament. And all of a sudden we're only getting 1 team in. So that's why we're doing it that way. Right. We're excited about the potential of maybe having both our men's and women's teams at the same hotel. The synergy around that. Ryan and Kristen are great friends. Each team supports the other. I would love to have the women playing and the men in the stands and the men playing and the women in the stands. I think there's some real potential here. The other thing I would say is it's not like we walked away from a really successful women's basketball venue or tournament. We'd been struggling to get a hold anywhere and to really build that thing. So I'm hoping maybe this is our opportunity to really start building some traditions. Again, I want our fans to plan on being in St. Louis this weekend every single year.
And it'd be nice to bring championship trophies too on the same day, right?
Normal. Yeah. So the men, and again, this is a TV thing. The men play at 11 a.m. on Sunday, Championship Sunday, which is a weird time. But Kristen was saying it at an event the other day, but don't go home. Stay and watch the women play at 4 or 5 o'clock. So wouldn't that be the coolest thing ever to have your teams playing for championships on the same day? And honestly, we have really, really good teams this year. There's so much excitement around both our men's and women's basketball teams. It's going to be really exciting to watch them.
So the Missouri Valley Conference right now, we have 11 members, right? Yeah. And every year there's teams picking up and moving and stuff like that. Yeah. Just tell us like the thought process. Right now we're at 11 and can you talk about like, will we go back to 12, get to that even number or what's the plans?
Athletics likes an even number. It makes scheduling easier. The other thing we talked about the tournament, 1 team stays home, right? Because it's 11 is just an odd number. So the new tournament combined in St. Louis means 1 team doesn't get to go. And that's never happened in Redbird, in Missouri Valley Conference tournaments. Everybody got to go. So you kind of feel bad for that 1 team that gets left behind. So I think in some ways we would like to even the numbers, but you don't want just any team, right? You want a team a school that's going to bring some basketball talent to the game. We don't want to just share our units with another team that's never going to make it to the tournament. And so I think we've gotten pickier over the years. I was a part of a scout team that went out years ago when we looked at UIC, Valpo, and Loyola. And that year we chose Loyola. but eventually the other two both joined the league. At one point people talked about Northern. Could Northern be a team that we added when they moved football and then we're looking for a home for the rest of them? Northern doesn't put a lot of money into their men's and women's basketball programs right now. Could they change that in the future? Yes, but 5 years ago, I think we would have been very interested in Northern and adding them just for the footprint. A large public university in the footprint near Chicago. But we're looking at a different set of parameters, a different set of guidelines now. They need to be good at a lot of sports. They need to play the sports that we need them to play in the Valley. So I think it'll be harder now to add a 12th than it used to be. And as long as we're, at 10 or 11, the Valley was 10 for many, many, many years.
Right.
So it'd be different if we were 8 and worried about trying to get to 9 or 10. But when you're 11, I don't think the pressure is on for us to add a 12th.
I'm going to go down history, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think I'm right in this. At one point, the Valley had 9 teams, and for 1 year, they left one team out, and it was Southern Illinois. It was right after Southern had won the conference, I think 3 years in a row. They didn't make it, and then we changed the rules, and there was a play-in game.
Oh,
is that the year we brought Southwest Missouri on?
Well, we eventually went to 10 right after that, but there was 1 year we had 9. I'm pretty sure
really?
The 9th seed. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't remember that, but
yeah. Okay, so then we've had great success in football, and here's the big talk, between all the fans, football fans especially, right? FCS versus FBS. Can you just give us some of your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I basically not on my watch are we going FBS? There are some good reasons to consider it. It's funny how the rumors spread around about, Illinois State's the next one to leave. Every once in a while, I'll get an AD in the Missouri Valley saying, I hear Illinois State's thinking about leaving. It was really cool to play for a national championship game. That's really hard to do on the FBS side, right? And yet we got to do that at the FCS level. I'd like to be dominating the Missouri Valley Conference, going our men's and women's team going every year to the big dance. Our football team competing in the playoffs every single year before we decide to do that. The money that it takes to jump to FBS is crazy amounts of money. And we're going to find out how it worked for Missouri State down the road, how it works for some of these programs. One of our longtime fans every once in a while will say to me, "Oh, I think we need to join the MAC." And I'm like, "Oh, I don't really think that's a good fit for us." And he's like, "Oh, I got 200 people who think that's a good idea." And I always say, do each of them have $1 million? Because it takes a lot of money to become an FBS school. And I'll use Missouri State as an example. So they had a donor that gave them the $5 million entry fee to be there. But now you have to offer more scholarships in football. And then that means you have to offer more scholarships on the women's side. I think they actually added women's sports in order to do that. You're not just flying your football team 5 or 6 times a year. You're flying your whole department now, all your teams, all over the country. You would have to believe that all of a sudden, all your donors are going to double and triple their donations, that you're going to find a lot of new donors, that your enrollment's going to skyrocket because of going to FBS. I don't know what the business model is that makes that work. Now, a North Dakota State, who truly has been dominant in FCS football, probably has a better case than most for making the jump in football, right? They didn't make the jump in their other sports. They're still Summit League and everything else. But making the jump in football, they can compete. And they have created a war chest up there that includes incredible facilities, incredible endowment, great, just great resources that they've built over many, many years, right, of being really good at FCS football. I don't think the birds are there. I think our goal should be to play in a national championship game on a regular basis in football, men's and women's basketball, go to the tournament on a regular basis, and then we should think about where we belong. but it would be hard for me to walk away from the Missouri Valley Conference. If it's okay with you, I'll throw out some of our challenges that we're having on the fiscal side too, that make that even harder. So we are this year, our reduction from the NCAA was $650,000 to pay for the House settlement, a little over $500,000. And then there was a settlement to volunteer coaches that cost us $110,000. The cap system that would need to be created for NIL cost us $29,000. $650,000 is not a big deal to U of I or Indiana or Purdue or some of those Power 4 schools. It's probably couch change for them. It is not for us. That is a huge amount of money for us.
How many more years do we have to pay that?
So the House settlement is a 10-year.
10 years.
We've only paid 2. The volunteer coach is only a 3-year, so that 109 will only have to pay 3 years. But all these lawsuits that we see out there right now, they all eat into the funds that the NCAA has, which means we get less funding. And so that really does hurt us. Add onto it that the university has done a budget remodel and has to be really watching their pennies. We've participated in those budget cuts on the university side. Also, we haven't filled some positions. So the money is tight right now. At the same time, we need to be strategically investing more money in football and men's and women's basketball in order to make them good. You hope it's a return on investment, that all of that turns into more ticket sales, more donations, more sponsorships. Right. You got to spend the money to get the wins and to get it going. But it would be hard to all of a sudden, we actually cut 14 sports. We cut their financial aid and travel budgets for this year in order to pay for these bills. It would be really hard to all of a sudden, say now you have to travel all over the country because we're in a new conference. So some conferences do provide some dollars, but for example, Conference USA, the MAC, not huge amounts of TV money there. Now, obviously the Big Ten, SEC, I think that the Big Ten last year paid out $70 to $80 million to each school, just out of football money, just out of football TV money, right? Our entire budget is $30 million. So very different apples to oranges.
And yet the Power 4 roped us into paying their screw up in the House settlement, right? And
yeah, I'm a little bitter about that, so you probably don't want to get me going.
Oh, I'm also bitter about that because
it seems so hypocritical that we didn't earn the money, the TV money that they're talking about, that they think should have been paid out to student athletes. Last year, I think we made $20,000 off of football TV time. I mean, they're making hundreds of millions of dollars, $1 billion in some cases. So we didn't make that money. And our student athletes aren't getting any of it, right? So each student athlete was able to put their name into the system to try to get paid, but it was only FBS football got 75% of it.
Yeah.
So, and yet we are paying for it because the NCAA is paying for it. So it's very frustrating.
It's crap. It's crap.
Okay, what's your absolute favorite game day tradition? Whether it's basketball, football, or whatever at ISU?
I love the bird walk for the football team. I used to love seeing them all in their suits, but now Coach Spack has let them be more casual. But I always line up with all the parents and the grandparents. It's always funny how some of them, especially the freshmen, they can barely make eye contact with their friends. They're too cool for school. They're doing the chin. And then others just walk up to that little Grammy and just wrap them up in a big bear hug. Coach Spack is beaming ear to ear. He's so proud. The band's playing. That one's hard to beat. That one's really hard to beat.
Old Reggie, new Reggie.
Oh, wow. You're real. I'm getting some PTSD here. Last year at the barbecue with the birds, I had to reveal the new Reggie and look out on that crowd of faces and see everybody react so negatively to the new Reggie. I liked the old Reggie because it looked more like stuffed animal Reggie.
Yeah.
I've gotten used to the new Reggie. I know all the reasons, the trends that we're moving towards these kind of superhero looking Reggies. The costume itself, the uniform itself is so much better for the people. And honestly, today, every once in a while, I have to think about like, what did the old Reggie look like? So I've gotten completely used to him. The kids love him. But it was a rough patch there for a while. Honestly, I'm like, does the media have nothing else to talk about? I was looking for a good crisis to move them on because they were doing polls and surveys, and not a lot of happy campers there for a while.
I'll be honest with you. When the new Reggie came out, I was having some second thoughts on it. But like as the season went by, whoever's in the costume, that whole mask, I can understand, right? Much more mobile and stuff like that.
And
you got used to it.
People love tradition, right? And so it's just hard for them to see Reggie in any different way. But if you've ever seen some of the really old ones, it's a good thing that at some point somebody had the nerve to make changes, because some of the really, really old ones were downright scary looking. So,
look bad. But the 80s Reggie was awesome. Right, because I can remember when we switched from thumbs up Reggie to like John, and we all have the beak Reggie one. Yeah, we weren't happy then either. So I mean,
never with teeth and everything. Yeah.
13 ADs, right? You're the 13th. AD.
Lucky number.
First female. Yeah. What does that mean? And ISU, like, just if you go back to history at ISU, we've done so much with women's sports. So I think it's great that we had the first.
Well, and
first
honestly, it was surprising to me, honestly, Steve, based upon what you just said. If you've ever seen our Title IX monument, we were pioneers. And when you look at Jill Hutchinson and Lori Mabry and Linda Herman and Melinda Fisher and some of those names, it's surprising to me that there hadn't been. Linda Herman had been the interim 4 times and was never given the position. Yep. And so I always say that it should have been her. She should have been the first female AD, but in her honor, I could not be happier to be the first female and to give her some credit for that. About 14% of Division I athletic directors are female. And so it is pretty rarefied air to get to say that I am the first female athletic director at Illinois State.
Awesome.
If you got one message to the fans and donors, what is it for ISU?
Show up. And that is different for different fans. If you haven't been going to any, come to a few games. If you've been going to a few, buy season tickets. If you've been contributing, where can you support us in another way? If you've never considered NIL and maybe you're coming around to it, that's going to be really important to us in the future in order to be competitive. So if everybody will bring a friend, step up their game just a little bit, that's what we ask of our student athletes, is give a little bit more, get a little bit better every day. I would ask the same of all our fans. And I also want to thank them. Those highlights I gave of an incredible year are not possible without our fans. We need the support of our community, our campus, our loyal fans. I was amazed at how many of our fans on pretty short notice made a trip to Nashville, Tennessee to see our football team play. And then same kind of thing, went to Indianapolis, and then some of them drove on to Marshall University to see our women play. They're amazing, absolutely amazing. And I can't thank them enough because we can't do it without them.
There's nothing better than a game experience. Okay. It's great that all the games are streamed now, right? You can see so much that you couldn't, 15 years ago, but it doesn't beat being
in person
at the game in person.
And honestly, I probably had the best game experience I've ever had in my entire life. And I've had some pretty good games. I was at the Mark McGuire breaking the record baseball game. I've had some pretty cool sport experiences, but that North Dakota State football game was by far the greatest sporting event I've ever been at. To see us, Tommy throw 5 interceptions, and now we're going to actually try for a 2-point. I mean, it was just, I think we were all just like, is this really happening? It just felt completely surreal. And a really, really loud indoor arena got deathly quiet. Right. It was absolutely amazing. And then to celebrate with everybody going crazy. There's nothing like that feeling, right, of your team overcoming odds and coming out the victor on the other end. I hope some people can come out and join us, because I think we could have some really special seasons across a lot of sports this year.
Yeah, when you're there in person and it happens,
Yeah.
you remember it forever, right? So you're going to remember that North Dakota State game.
Oh.
If you were there when Johnny made that game-winning shot against Missouri State, you remember it. Or when he gets the cut against the eye and he slams the basketball down and Bradley and we do well. Those are just moments you don't forget.
No.
And when you're there, it's different. It's absolutely different.
Absolutely. And people like to reminisce and talk about it. It's always funny how sometimes you think, well, I don't think our count was that big because everybody said they were there. Everybody said they were at that game. I don't think we had that many fans in the stand that game, but no, everybody likes to be a part of it. So come on out, because I think we're going to have a lot of exciting moments like that this year.
It's awesome.
All right, closing. This is where you get the floor. Talk about anything you want.
Well, I guess I'll reiterate what I just said is thank you to the fans for a great year. Come on out this year, because I think this truly will be a very, very special year for Redbird Athletics. We've got a lot of exciting things going on in terms of our teams that I think everybody will enjoy. We're going to continue to do everything we can to be good campus and community partners. We're going to host the Million Meal Pack again with State Farm. And I think anybody who has never experienced that ought to come down and be a part of it. Yeah, it's an incredible experience. I guess that's the other thing, that as I stand, and I'm one of those people that cries easily. I always joke that I'm a social crier. Nobody cries alone. You would not believe how often these young people make me tear up because of just how incredibly special they are and how proud I am of them. So, it's been an incredible 3 years. I'm looking forward to this next one, and I want everybody to come join us.
Awesome. Thank you. So this is Bird Fans Forever. This has been episode 89 with Dr. Jeri Beggs. Thank you so much. John, hit it.